What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. It definitely is a happy Monday. Bitcoin's having a nice recovery here. The Bitcoin miners are almost all green, and we're going to talk about some things going on with Bitcoin. First off, a pattern that looks like it is playing out. We're also going to talk about whales that are continuing to accumulate. And we'll also look over the Spot Bitcoin ETFs and what's been happening there lately. There have been outflows. We also have some news coming out of Japan, but let's get started, guys. If you get something useful out of this, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and let's take a look at Bitcoin first. Now, one thing many of us were watching out for was a inverse head and shoulders for Bitcoin. We have the head here, the shoulder here, and the second shoulder here. It does look like we're starting to get that bounce. What we need, in my opinion, is a break out of this descending trend line. Let me show you on a shorter time frame. There is a clear trend here. I do think we need to break this descending resistance. One thing we were noticing on Friday was a bullish divergence. You'll see that the price was dropping. However, here you can see that the RSI was trying to hold up. The momentum was starting to shift. In my opinion, what's going to be crucial this week is breaking out of our 50 MA. I do think we're going to test it this week. And right now it's just floating around 60,000. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I do think this is the time to buy. Looking back, August and September, this will be the bottom on this pullback, in my opinion. As the market knows, October is referred to as Uptober, typically a really good month for Bitcoin. And September is known as Rectember. Although when we're in a halving year, we have better odds in terms of September. And I'm not writing off September yet. I do think when we look back from this pullback, August 5th will have been the low, that 49,000. But you never know, of course, anything can happen. But what do you guys think? Do you think Bitcoin's gonna hit 49,000 again or go lower? Or do you think we're on our way to test our 50 MA at about 60,000? Then it's just up to holding that 50 MA. I do believe that August 5th was max fear, max pain. 49K, a lot of worry from Mt. Gox during that time, uncertainty with the Spot Bitcoin ETFs. I believe we're getting some outflows at that time. And we're going to talk about outflows too recently and what's been going on there. I do think it's mostly retail based. Now I'll preface this next portion by saying that the Spot Bitcoin ETFs are majority retail. Or in other words, institutional ownership of Bitcoin ETFs is about 24%. According to this most recent article I can find regarding institutional ownership. Now we have news, this came out 7 hours ago. We have been seeing some outflows from the Spot Bitcoin ETFs to the tune of 1.2 billion in the last 8 days. That does sound pretty bad. There has definitely been a lot of sell pressure lately on the Spot Bitcoin ETF side. And here's their long streak of outflows. This is actually the longest streak of outflows since launch. You'll see these little times where we see outflows, outflows, a little bit of outflows, a little bit of outflows. And then soon after, we do get our inflows back. I do suspect we will get that again. This is mostly retail in my opinion. I showed you guys that 24 or so % is institutional ownership, and whales have been accumulating Bitcoin, not panic selling like retail. Despite these outflows, these Spot Bitcoin ETFs are still massively successful. This could be just a little bit of profit taking because people are massively up on them. This could be retail getting a little fudded out. But look at this. These are the top ETF launches of 2024. Bitcoin ETFs take the cake on the top 4. Despite the outflows, crypto dominated the ETF space compared to 400 new ETFs launched in 2024. The 4 biggest launches in 2024 are all Spot Bitcoin ETFs. And of the top 25 ETF launches by inflows, 13 are related to crypto, 10 are Bitcoin based, and 3 are Ethereum-based funds. Despite all the outflows, we still have over $30 billion just from the 4 top funds. In my opinion, a lot of the selling from the Spot Bitcoin ETF side is retail. The Spot Bitcoin ETFs is majority retail owned. And when you look at what whales are actually doing, they are accumulating. Here's a noteworthy trend. Addresses holding between 100 and 1,000 Bitcoin now control 20.3% of the circulating supply, which is about 4 million Bitcoin. This is a 5% increase from 3.82 million just 6 months ago. You can see that this line is the holders with 100 or more Bitcoin, 100 to 1,000. And you can see that this has just been growing like crazy. Against Bitcoin's price dropping, the whales are smart. They know to buy when it's down. They know to buy long-term assets while they're low. While retail is panicking out. When everyone's wondering, is this bull run going to be the same as every last halving before it? Or is somehow it going to be completely different? Retail is getting panicked out. Whales are buying, and this aligns with classic market patterns where major players build positions quietly while the broader market reacts emotionally to price fluctuations. And here's something that's really interesting. MicroStrategy has actually outperformed NVDA and also every S&P 500 company since 2020. Now, if you adjust this timeline slightly, I believe NVIDIA can beat MicroStrategy, and I believe I showed you guys that NVIDIA has been a 10x over the last 2 years or so, which is absolutely insane if you think about it. But basically in that timeline, NVIDIA saw an 821% increase, while MicroStrategy saw an 825% increase. And we also have some recent news coming out of Japan. Japan's largest power company, TEPCO, is mining Bitcoin using their surplus energy. And this is something to think about in terms of the Bitcoin miners, the competition coming. Because as it becomes more profitable, as Bitcoin goes up, as the miners are profitable rather than unprofitable, we're going to hear more things about this. Not that Bitcoin is necessarily profitable for Bitcoin miners right now, but when we get to that point, when we're later in the cycle, we will hear about random companies getting into Bitcoin mining, mark my words. And we may even hear of a company we might never have suspected getting into mining Bitcoin. Once we get later into the cycle, mining Bitcoin is going to be massively profitable. An $80,000 Bitcoin is basically profitable for every Bitcoin miner. Bitcoin where it's at here is basically unprofitable for every Bitcoin miner. Things are going to change quickly in the Bitcoin mining space, and Bitcoin really doesn't even have to move that big to get there. Many of them were profitable pre-halving when Bitcoin was in the 30,000s. The halving came along and cut rewards in half. Some of the Bitcoin miners are very close to profitability. Bitcoin more in the average of 70,000 and above, and we will see many of these Bitcoin miners posting profits. It is right around the corner in my opinion. Now we also have something else coming up this week. It's going to be CPI and PPI, and CPI is going to be the 11th of September. I believe PPI is going to be the next day. The forecast is a 2.6. You know, if we come in line with that, I think the market will be happy about it. It's pretty clear we're going to get rate cuts regardless of what we get here with CPI and PPI. If we get some kind of insane surprise read, that might change things, but I do think we are getting a rate cut regardless. Labor market seems to be weakening, and the Fed is changing their stance from worrying about inflation to worrying about the labor market. It seems pretty clear. I do think CPI and PPI will fit the Fed's narrative, and we will be looking at cuts. Hopefully you guys had a good weekend. I do think this is still the time to be buying the Bitcoin miners despite a green day. They are still down pretty massively, and I do think we are looking at the beginning of a recovery. Maybe we have a few more red days in September, but mark my words, in my opinion, this is the time to buy. August, September, these were the times to accumulate after this pullback, during all this fear. In a few months, people will say, Mt. Gox who? I do still expect that we will have a great Q4 for Bitcoin. Whales expect it. Retail doesn't expect it. I think things are looking perfectly. But thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.